Okay. All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So, should be no problem finding our spot right here. Very useful. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 21st day of November, 2023 in San Diego. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 3 entitled Karma Yoga, text 11, near the bottom of page 148. Devan Bhavayatanena Te Deva Bhavayantuvaha Parasparam Bhavayantah Shreyah Param Abhapsita. Okay. Devan Bhavayatanena Te Deva Bhavayantuvaha Paraspadam Bhavayantah Shreyak Paramabhapsyata. Devan Bhavayatanena Te Deva Bhavayantuvaha Paraspadam Bhavayantah Shreyak Paramabhapsyata. Devan Bhavatayante Devan Bhavatanena Bhavayatanena Te Deva Bhavayantuvaha Paraspadam Bhavayantah Shreyak Paramabhapsyata. Go ahead, Chad. Yeah, me too. Bhavayatanena. Bhavayatanena. Devan Bhavayatanena. Te Deva Bhavayantuvaha. Paraspadam Bhavayanta. Shreyak Paramabhapsyata. No? No. Okay. Anyone online want to try? All right. No one online. I'll read the word by words. Devan, demigods, Bhavayanta. Devan, demigods, Bhavayata, having pleased Anena by this sacrifice, Te, those, Devaha, demigods, Bhavayantu, will please Vaha, you. Paraspadam, mutually, Bhavayantaha, pleasing one another. Shreyak, benediction, Padam, the supreme, Abhapsyata, you will achieve. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Purport. The demigods are empowered administrators of material affairs. The supply of air, light, water, and all other benedictions for maintaining the body and soul of every living entity is entrusted to the demigods, who are innumerable assistants in different parts of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their pleasures and displeasures are dependent on the performance of yajnas by the human being. Some of the yajnas are meant to satisfy particular demigods, but even in so doing, Lord Vishnu is worshipped in all yajnas as the chief beneficiary. It is stated also in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna himself is the beneficiary of all kinds of yajnas, bhoktaram yajnatapasam. Therefore, ultimate satisfaction of the yajnapati is the chief purpose of all yajnas. When these yajnas are perfectly performed, naturally the demigods in charge of the different departments of supply are pleased, and there is no scarcity in the supply of natural products. Performance of yajnas has many side effects, ultimately leading to liberation from material bondage. By performance of yajnas, all activities become purified, as it is stated in the Vedas. Ahara shuddhau, sattva shuddhi, sattva shuddhau, dhruva smriti, smriti lambhe, sarva grantinam, vipramokshaha. By performance of yajna, one's eatables become sanctified, and by eating sanctified foodstuffs, one's very existence becomes purified. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified, and when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation, and all these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present-day society. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, I couldn't help thinking as I was reading this verse and purport of how we just had this wonderful festival called Govardhan Puja, in which Krishna, as a little boy, he denigrates, he counteracts the yajna to Vishnu, to Indra, right? The Indra yajna, which is they've been performing for many years. The cowards led by Nanda Maharaj. Why? It's like paying taxes. In other words, Indra is in charge of the rain, and the rain is very important. Not too much, not too little, and at the right time. That makes farming possible, right? So Krishna said, no, please don't perform the Indra yajna. Take all those paraphernalia you collected to worship Indra, and you worship Govardhan Hill and the cows. That will please me the most. So, amazingly, one would say, they said, all right, we're not going to pay our taxes this year. We're just going to do what Krishna wants. Because they're basically dedicated to pleasing Krishna. But what was the result? Indra was furious. He tried to destroy the whole community, right? And of course he was defeated, and eventually he saw the evil, the wrongness of his ways, and he surrendered to Krishna. And we find also in the Bhagavad Gita, and you go to the 9th chapter, sorry, and Krishna talks about people worshiping me indirectly by worshiping the demigods in order to go to the heavenly planets. But then after you go to the heavenly planets, eventually you're there because of all the pious activities. You have these pious credits, but eventually they're used up. Because it's all a material thing. It may be on a higher plane, but it's still material. So those who are able to go to heaven, they, say Indra Loka, they enjoy godly delights. Vishala means much more than we can enjoy here. But chine punye matya lokam vishanti. When your punya is chine, which means used up, you fall down again to this world. And he gives it a very sobering name, this world. Martya Loka, the world of death. You notice how Sanskrit has so many cognates? Martya, mortal, right? Mortuary. The same root of the word death there is in Sanskrit, the origin of all language. So Martya Loka Vishanti. So then Krishna says, Evam Trihidam Manupapana. Those who practice this kind of yajna, which he's explaining here, to go to the heavenly planets, they just go and come, they don't really make any progress toward going back to Godhead. So he's putting down in the same book what he said is praising here, which is that if you perform yajna nicely, then the devas will be pleased, the demigods being pleased by sacrifice, will also please you, because they're in charge of the water and the sun and the air. You've got Vayu, you've got Surya, right? You've got Varuna. There's somebody in charge of everything, Bhumi. So if they're angry or displeased, they can create havoc, which is what they're doing right now. We may be, the proximate cause of climate change, but ultimately it's because we're going way off of the proper Vedic culture, which is simple living, high thinking, and recognizing the superior forces. So there's a certain progression here. He's starting out, this is only the 3rd chapter, it's the 2nd chapter of Krishna's instructions. 1st chapter is all Arjuna, lamenting and so forth, not wanting to fight. So the mere recognition of superior powers that one has to recognize, rather than thinking that we're in charge of the world, right? And with our science and with our industry and everything, we can control nature. That's the great fallacy. Can they control nature? Have they been able to control these hurricanes and these massive storms and the melting of the Arctic, what to speak of the Antarctic, which is starting to melt if you keep track of it? They can't really do that. But this is what they call the hubris, or the false pride of the demons, is that I'm in control. But we're completely out of control. We're under the control of the material energy, which is under the control of the demigods, who are under the control of Krishna. That's the important difference. We don't end with simply worshiping Durga or worshiping Ganesh, for this or that, prosperity. No, we recognize that they're all servants of Krishna. And therefore there's a verse, spoken I think by Prahlad Maharaj in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada would quote all the time. Yata tado mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskanda buddhopashaka pranopahara chayatendriyanam tataiva sarvahana machiteja. Which is all about, it reconciles this whole seemingly paradox here. And that is that just as when you water the root of a tree, you don't have to worry about watering the branches or the leaves and the flowers and the fruits. They're all taken care of, right? And when you put food into the stomach, all your senses become nourished and you can live. Similarly, when you feed or sacrifice, worship Krishna, all of the demigods become satisfied. They become nourished. And that's ultimately what is going to be explained. And the whole thing culminates at the very end. Where Krishna says, all right, sarva dharmam parityaja. You give up all these other dharmas, which include the dharmas of how to worship this god, that god, this mantra, this is all for material things. Give that up, and give up even all the other varieties of ways of approaching the absolute that I mentioned, like dhyana yoga, 6th chapter. There's some very good instruction there, that we can glean. But the process of going alone into the forest, and sitting in a certain way and looking, I could never figure out this looking at between the eyebrows, or at the tip of the nose. And don't you go cross-eyed real quick that way? Anyway. So that's impossible, we're sure to fail. So what can we do that's practical, that's actually going to get us to the goal? And we know the goal isn't just to live prosperously on this planet and here. The goal is to graduate from the conditioned state, from birth, death, old age, and disease on any material planet. We're lucky, actually, the Earth planet. This Kali Yuga on this Earth planet is worshipped by those who know the real value of things. Because, think about it, how often does Krishna appear as himself and come as a threefold bending form, playing as a cowherd, to this Earth, or to this particular Earth? Once in a day of Brahma. And so a day of Brahma, the day and the night, lasts 8,640,000,000 years. I think something like that, yeah. That's a long time, But here we are. Krishna just appeared yesterday. What is 5,000 years compared to that? It's a split second, right? So we're sitting here, and Lord Chaitanya recorded history. We're talking 500 years ago, a little bit, He's a historical figure. They're all so is Krishna, but, a little farther back. So we're so fortunate. Not only are we in the human form, we've come in touch with the pure devotee through his books and his movement and so forth. We're under Srila Prabhupada's protection here. And we have a tremendous opportunity to make progress on the way back to Godhead and not waste this human form of life. So this is what Krishna is doing here. He's speaking to us where we're at, so to speak. He says, okay, you want to prosper on the earth? You have to get into this yajna principle. And first thing is, all right, you have to perform yajnas for these gods. And then they'll be pleased with you, and they'll regulate the wind and the rain and the sunshine. Everything will be nice. And you can live a peaceful, happy life. Ultimately, of course, that's not what we want to do. But the very principle of yajna, recognizing our dependence on the forces of nature And then realizing from other verses in the Bhagavad Gita that nature is controlled by God, by Krishna. In the 9th chapter, is a key chapter, right in the middle of the book. He says, all of this prakriti, because nature is prakriti, so Maya jakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunani nakonte jagad viparibhaktate. Under my supervision, aksha is eyes, Maya jakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. All these moving and non-moving living entities are functioning under my supervision. And by that cause, Hetanana Konte Jagat Vibhidivarte. Jagat Vibhidivarte means everything's going on, very regulated in the universe. When you actually think about it, there's so much, inconceivable evidence, if you say, of a wonderful intelligence behind some everything in the world. If you just find, just the atoms themselves. I remember when I was a kid. The atoms are, we got the neutrons in the nucleus and protons, and then you got electrons going around, and that's the atom. And then over the years, they kept, discovering newer and newer subatomic particles and all of these different things. One of the, you got the quarks, and there was even a quality called strange. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe they gave that up. But it's just in the atom. And that pamphlet, not a pamphlet, a magazine called Origins, Bhadri Narayan Maharaj was featuring at one time. He was encouraging devotees to take them out, because it's prepared by Sariputta Prabhu and Dhruta Prabhu, Dhruta being a great writer and very brilliant mind, and Sariputta being super brilliant. On what Prabhu would talk about all the time. How did it all come about? What's the source of living things? Life comes from life. Life does not come from matter. There's even a book that we put together with that. So, and in that, I think it's in there, or maybe I just heard, because I used to work with Sariputta, live with him. And that is that even the little paramecium, I don't know if when I went to school with the simple one-celled, animals like the amoeba, and the paramecium, and gradually over the years, one of them mutated and changed it, and in this way they come up, just by the force of chance, basically. But he said that those one-celled animals, but paramecium like that, are more complicated than all of New York City. There's that much going on, even in that little, And the more that they investigate, the human body, there's all these amazing things, how the brain works, they can't figure out. So it's so self-evident, if you really just open to it, that there's a supreme intelligence behind all this. And that supreme intelligence is Krishna's. It's God's. And our perfection is to connect with that God through the power of mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, and service and hearing and purification. And it makes us very content and peaceful. Even in this crazy world where there's an epidemic, not of COVID so much, but of stress and confusion and depression, and the younger generation who are always, especially very aware of what's going on, with all of the computer, the electronics and everything, and they see that what's our future? All right, the old people, they're going to pass on, and the climate is already getting crazy, but we're only 12 years old, 14, 16, 18. What's our future? And so it's a tremendous undercurrent of discouragement, but Krishna consciousness is not like that. Because there's hope. Even if there's a tsunami tomorrow, sweeping everything away, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. What are we going to do? That's the thing is, the more we experience the benefits of Krishna consciousness, the reality, which is supernatural, of how this mantra and this practice can change your heart, can change your experience, can change your whole mentality. The more we should have faith. Yes, we're going to do that. I mean, our generation, my generation, I get on dandavats.com, which is a major site. I don't know if you've ever been on there, dandavats.com. And one of the devotees who I knew back in Atlanta when I was there in 78 and 79. He was a book distributor there, leading book distributor, and he just passed away. You know, they had a notice there. And there was a wonderful remembrance of how he was the first devotee who distributed over 200 books in one day, big books. You know, and in those days, distribution, they didn't distribute sets, you know, they do like that, but they distributed one-on-one, you know. Big books means like Bhagavad Gita. He went out at Mangalartik, maybe right after Mangalartik, and didn't return for 24 hours till the end of the next Mangalartik. And Prabhupada, he learned about that, and he wrote a letter, and he said that he recognized this wonderful feat, you know, at that time. So, you know, these legendary figures their time is limited. You know, we're those who had personal contact with Prabhupada are a limited bunch. You know, who are, especially those who are still involved in the movement. You know. So but the next generation is all you guys, and you carry it on. Carry on this mission, because it's just as relevant now as it ever was, and it ever will be. So this is an important concept. How there are conscious living beings who are more powerful and live longer and everything, who are demigods. They're not God, but they're much more powerful than we are, and they're overseeing all of these events that nature is presenting to us. The water, the sunlight, all of these. There are people behind that. But we should always remember that if we are devotees of Krishna and we're serving him nicely, then they all will be pleased, and they will do what's, you know, best for the devotees. That's our faith, and that is it's just the way it works. It's a big government. It's a big government. Krishna's at the top, and he's got all of these servants, faithful servants, these gods. You know, some of them are very, you know, amazing, like Brahma, who's the chief demigod, and Lord Shiva, you know. But his consciousness and his will is behind everything. And I was just thinking, this one verse that you probably haven't heard. But in the Bhagavatam, there's so much encouragement, you know, to enter into devotional service. So one of the scenes is Lord Kapila Dev, who's Krishna, an incarnation of Krishna. He's teaching his mother about devotional service. And so at one point she's responding to his teachings, and she says, Oho bata shapachoto gariyan yajjigvagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapuste juhavu sasnaraya brahmanucho nama gunantiyete. Aho is like, oh, how wonderful it is. Bata, that just expands the aho. Aho bata, how wonderful it is. Those who may have been born in a family of dog eaters, meaning they symbolize a very, very low birth outside of the varnashram, you know. But even they, if somehow or other your name is reverberating in off their tongues, Hobada Shopachoto Gari, and how glorious they are. Yad Jigvagre, on the tip of the tongue. Vartate Nama Tubhyam, your name. She's speaking to Kapila Dev, who's Krishna. Atepus tapuste, in previous lives they must have performed all kinds of austerities and studied all the Vedas and bathed in all the holy places and things like that. Isn't that wonderful to think like that? How fortunate we are to have any attraction at all to chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so, ultimately, as we read through the Bhagavad Gita, we'll see that, and this idea of jagya, which came up in text 9, you may remember, yagyartat kamanon yatra, that whatever you do has to be done in the mood of sacrifice for the Supreme, for Krishna. Otherwise, that work will bind you to this world, even if it's very pious work. But if it's just on a level of mundane welfare work, say, you know, that's very good. You're not going to get punished for that. You know, in other words, you're not going to go to hell for that, but you'll have to take another birth to receive back the result of that pious activity. That means birth, old age, disease, and death. And in the next life, who knows? You may not have that influence, you know what I'm saying? That you perform this nice pious activity. So ultimately, Krishna rejects that. He has a verse in the 9th chapter. Karmais taista rita jnana papadyante anya devata. Here he's talking about all the devas will please you and you'll please the devas, everything. But then when he gets there, he says, those whose consciousness is stolen away by material desires, karmais taista rita jnana, their knowledge is taken away. They worship other gods beside me. Karmais taista rita papadyante anya devata. But I mean, they surrender to other gods. Tung tung nivamasta, controlled by their own natures, they worship like that. And then by that worship, they may get results, which are ultimately given by me, but they may get some go to heaven or whatever. But then he says, this is like his verdict on this whole thing of demigod worship. Andavatu palam tesham, tanbhavat upamadisam, devan upamadisam. Okay, I forget the rest of this, the verse, the Sanskrit. But he's saying, he says there that those who worship these gods, their results are limited and temporary. And ultimately, they don't really make any progress. They just go and come, and they're back where they started from. So, Krishna consciousness means not to be, allured by worship of these gods. Now, most of us, I don't know, you maybe grew up in an Indian family, so you may have been, worshiping the demigods, or maybe it was Vaishnava family. But so most of us, I mean, I didn't have that distraction, But the point is that's a good beginning to recognize our position as dependent, but we don't have to go through worshiping the demigods and give it up eventually. We've already done that. Now we should simply go to the top and worship Krishna. And then it's just like feeding the stomach. All the demigods will be very happy if we become nice devotees of Krishna. Because we'll be plugged into their powerhouse. We'll be serving Krishna. So we don't have to worry about this. But here he's saying that, yes, this is the way the world works. It's better that you're recognizing Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, that you're just an out-and-out atheist. Then you're getting into the demonic side. So if you really recognize the gods, then you see that you have that principle of, yes, we have to worship these higher beings, And what will Brahma teach you? Brahma will teach you to worship Krishna. I mean, the whole pastime, you may be familiar with it, where Krishna, he kills the Gasura. Remember that? He's out, I don't know if you know that. But Agasura is a big snake. I mean, he manifested that form as a 12-mile-long snake, a python. And this was when Krishna was still under 6 years old. And someday when he gets to be 6 years old, he's big enough to take the cows out. So he's still a calf herd, and he's with all his young friends, 5 and 6, So they're out there, and and this big demon comes because they're sent by Kamsa, because he's afraid of the 8th-born child. So he manifests this huge python. They just wait. They wait on the path, and then their prey comes in, and they envelop them, and they squeeze the life out of them. That's how pythons work. Not cobras. The cobras have the poison. So he's waiting there, and he opens his mouth, and it's huge. It's like some big mountain cave. And all the boys, they see, oh, this is such a wonderful thing. Is this a cave? It looks more like a big snake, a big, serpent. And what should we do? Why don't we just go into the snake, into the mouth of the snake? Krishna will save us. He always does. Before he killed Bakasura, he killed Putana, So they just go in, and Krishna's watching. Well, what are they doing? So then he follows in, and it says all the demigods freak out. He said, oh my God, Krishna's a goner now, So of course he kills Agasura by expanding within his throat, choking him up. So Agasura then pops out, the spirit soul has to come out. So it comes out of his head, and he waits in the sky. And when Krishna, and all his friends died in there, but he brought him back to life. He does that again when they drink the poisonous Yamuna with Kaliya. They die, he brings them back to life. So then they all march out. Krishna's killed the big demon. It was a wonderful story. And then they go have lunch. Now they're having lunch on the bank of the Yamuna. And Lord Brahma's watching all this, and he says, "Who is this? Is this the source of me? This little boy with a flute and a little fruit in his hand? That doesn't make sense, because he knows he's coming out of the body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu and all these." So Brahma then tries to check Krishna's mystic powers, see how powerful he is. So what happens is the calves, they wander away, while they're having their lunch there. The calves are having their lunch, but they go, okay. And they go into the forest, and gradually they wander away and they can't see them. And the boy says, "Oh my God, the calves are gone. What are we going to do?" So Krishna says, "You just stay on here, keep them taking lunch, and I'll go and find the calves." So he goes and he can't find the calves. Comes back to the bank of the Yamuna, can't find the boys. Brahma has taken them. He hasn't hurt them. He's just put them in this mystic slumber, and they're in a cave somewhere, So Krishna knows what's happened. So he expands himself into all the calves and boys, and hundreds and thousands. And he matches exactly all their idiosyncrasies, how they dress and their personalities, because he wants them, their mothers, who knows them best, to think that this is them, so they won't be aggrieved. You see? What to speak of the cows will also be aggrieved. Where's my calves? They have the same affection. So this is, out of his kindness. And also to show Brahma who's who, what's what. So for a whole year he does that. And it's all, and it's such a blessing for the mothers and the cows. They all get to suckle and, because they still, and pamper him. Krishna personally, they don't know it. They think it's their children, but somehow their love for the boys and the cows' love for the calves is increasing more and more. So Balaram, and this is funny because Balaram is after all God too, right? But he's puzzled. What's going on? How's he puzzled? But after almost a year is gone, which is just a moment for Brahma's time. When you calculate it out, it would be like a split second, really. So he says, and after, there's one incident near the end of the year, almost the year is up, when there's some cows at the top of a hill, and there's some grown-up calves down at the bottom with the cowherd boys. And those calves don't drink the milk from the mothers. They can eat the grass. But these are Krishna calves. And so the cows at the top of the hill, they gallop. They gallop down the mountain, and the cowherd men can't stop them. In other words, they're so eager to be with these calves, and so finally they come down, and the men are all angry and ashamed. They couldn't control their cows. But when they see the boys, their heart just melts, and they just take them in their arms because these are all Krishna boys. They're actually Krishna. So Balaram finally figures out. He said, "These aren't actually these calves and boys, are they? They're actually you, right, Krishna?" So he figures it out. So what I'm getting at is that finally Brahma, who, he's the head of our sampradaya. The first verse, very first verse, second line of the whole Bhagavatam is about how Brahma was enlightened from within his heart by Krishna. With all the Vedic knowledge, he spoke the Brahma Samhita, which is conclusive, Govindam Adipurusam. So he comes down, and he realizes he's made a big mistake, that this really is Narayan. This is in this form of a little boy. And he offers these wonderful prayers. And in those prayers, he has this one verse that is very famous, because Lord Chaitanya approved this as essential bhakti. And he says, Jnane priyasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaditam bhavadiya vartam. Stane sita shuddhikatam tanuvan manobe ye prayasho ajitajitopasitai lokya. And he said, just give up all of this speculation about what the absolute is. Jnane priyasam. Priyasam means great effort at trying to figure it out on your own. It's not, you can't figure it out on your own. There's so much inconceivable things going. Udapasya, throw it that far away and surrender to the process of hearing from the great authorities about the Supreme. That's the idea. Udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaditam. San is a short way of saying sadhus. The realized souls, from their mouth, listen to their words, that pure vibration, and you become purified yourself. Bhavadiya vartam, and who are speaking about your glorious activities. Sthanes titag, you don't have to do anything radical. Don't go up to the Himalayas, you just stay where you're at. Sthanes titag, but follow this path of hearing. Shruti gatam. And you serve those words with your body, mind, and words itself. Body and mind. Tanuvan manobir. Well, how do you do that? Well, with your body, you act according to the instructions. You know, you do this, you don't do that. With your words, you repeat them. With your mind, you contemplate them. These instructions, and you apply your intelligence. And by that activity, you will be able to conquer the unconquerable Lord. Ajita Jita. How can anyone conquer Krishna? He's Ajita. He agrees to be conquered by love, and that's what this month is all about. His mother loves him, and that's why he agrees to be bound. He's bound not by the ropes, but by his mother's love. That's in the song, right? We sing. So that's the whole idea. Going to Indraloka is like, imaginary. And there's a nice verse about that. Kaivalyam narakayate, merging into the Brahman, or even worse, into the body of Krishna, is just like going to hell for a devotee. Because there's no possibility of bhakti in the impersonal Brahman. But the bhakti requires three things. It requires Bhagavan, the bhakta, and the process of bhakti. But Bhagavan is not there in the Brahmajyoti. That's just the effulgence of his body. And you're not even there with your body. You're just there as a conscious being. And so it's just, it doesn't work out. Eventually you get restless there, and you come down again to this plane to open hospitals or something like that. So, so this is the process that we follow. This is the main process of hearing from authorities and trying to put their good instructions into action in our own lives. And so here, we're studying how, yes, there is a whole arrangement with gods and goddesses, and we have to recognize that. But we also have to recognize beyond that is Krishna. And if we simply serve Krishna nicely, then the gods will be pleased. There'll be rain at the right time and just the right amount, and the sun will shine, and the oceans won't rise up and inundate, and everything that's going on right now. Because people are not worshiping Krishna. All right, any discussion? All right, let's go on. Text 12. Ishtan bogan hibo deva dasyante yagyabhavitaha tardatana padayabhyo yobongte stena evasaha. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Purport. The demigods are authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely, according to different qualities. For example, the meat-eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature. And before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. And of course, I don't know if he says it here, but not cows, goats, something like that. But for those who are in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. But ultimately, all yajnas are meant for a gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary men, at least 5 yajnas known as Pancha Mahayajna are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life that the human society requires are supplied by the demigod agents of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Take, for example, all the eatables of human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar, etc., for the persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians like meats, none of which can be manufactured by men. Then again, take for example heat, light, water, air, etc., which are also necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by the human society. Without the Supreme Lord, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, breeze, etc., without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on supplies from the Lord. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied by the agents of the Lord, with the purpose that we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to the ultimate goal of life, namely, liberation from the material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by performance of yajnas. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yajnas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yajna, namely the Sankirtan yajna, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness. And this theme comes up whenever yajnas come up. Prabhupada comes back to Sankirtan yajna, which is the most auspicious. And of course, at the end of chapter 5, what does Krishna say? Bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. I am the ultimate enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities, and the controller of all the entire creation. Bhoktaram sarvaloka, all planets, sarvaloka mahaishwaram, the great controller of all the planets. And then, but he's not like some evil force controlling you and exploiting you. It says, Suridam sarvabhutanam. I am the best well-wishing friend in the hearts of everyone. And one who knows this, all these 3 things, Gyatva mam shantam richati, can truly become peaceful. This is the Prabhupada's famous peace formula. Because he was there right in New York. They once went to early on, he took all the boys up to the United Nations, which is right there in Manhattan, And then you see outside the big building they have there, the famous building, looks like a big radiator, and all the flags, right? So Prabhupada would famously say, so what have they accomplished, after 20, 30, 40, 50 years of the United Nations? Is there peace on earth? Not really. We've got 2 wars going on right now, either of which could blow up in the whole world. So it's simply the flags are increasing, meaning that they're still identifying with this body, I am this, it doesn't work. And so they started chanting kirtan, and immediately the guards came out and said, no, you can't do that here. It has to be, you can have a silent meditation. So they sat down and they started chanting japa. They chanted. But so that the peace formula is ultimately recognizing Krishna to be the master of all and the proper object of all yajna and worship, and then the demigods are all satisfied. And we saw that early on in the Bhagavatam. You read in the first canto about Maharaj Yudhishthira's reign, how when in his reign, the rain was coming just at the right amount, and the cows were very happy, and there was prosperity because it was Dharma personified. The son of Yamaraj, who was also known as Dharmaraj, and finally the battle of Kurukshetra was over, and he was enthroned. And his main concern, was for the welfare of the people, not for exploiting the people and being a big, nonsense. So that's Krishna's concerned. When Dharma is compromised in the world, as he says, yadaya dahi dharma se glana bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharma se tadamanam sajamiham. When Dharma becomes ascendant in the world, then I come in order to institute Dharma, protected devotees, and eradicate the miscreant demons. So he did that in 5,000 years ago, and he's doing it now in a different way. Lord Chaitanya, not killing the demons, but destroying the demonic mentality by propagating the process of bhakti through these wonderful agents like Srila Prabhupada. So our perfection of our life is to join that mission and become Krishna conscious ourselves and experience the benefits of it and give it out to everybody. It's the real hope of the world. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. So I think that I'll give you a couple of nice poems. I was thinking of one I was sharing with Nagar Kirtan. Some of you may have heard it before, but this is a verse about the holy name. It's very nice to recite some prayers and glorification of the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna mantra, because we learn that the holy name is Krishna himself. So it's a person. So just like if someone praises you, you become favorable toward them. So if you're praising the holy name and meditating on the glories of the holy name, then when it comes time to chant the holy name, you'll find it easier to concentrate and to become absorbed because you get all these ideas and glorification. So this is a verse by Raghunath Das Goswami about the names of Radha and Krishna. And he's doing what they often do. They instruct, he's instructing his tongue what to do. He also has something called the Manak Shiksha, which is very famous, where he's instructing his mind and to think of Krishna. So the verse goes like this: Radheti nama navasundara siddhu mugdam Krishneti nama maduradbhuta gara dugdam Sarvakshanam sudabhiraga himena ramyam kritva tadaiva pibame rasane chadarte. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes, such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. What do you think? Nice, huh? Okay. So you earned another one since you like that one. So this is a verse near the end of the Krishna Karnamrita, and you'll hear how Bilvamangal Thakur is glorifying Krishna. Jaya 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 Deva 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 Tribhavana Mangala Divya Nama Deha. Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shavana Mano Nayanama Tavatara. O glory, 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 Lord, O glory unto Thee, who with Thy holy name bless all three worlds and set them free. O glory, glory, glory unto Thee, O Krishna Dev, whose nectar floods our ears and eyes and hearts in endless waves. And here's a verse describing Srila Prabhupada's activities during these 12 years when he was preaching around the world. Aho aho be nakale vaduyate sudha sudhara mararam pade pade dine dine chandana chandra shitalam yasho yashodatana yasagiyate. Because at every step they drink a flood of wondrous nectar sweet, whose cooling power sandal paste enhanced with camphor can't defeat. They feel as if the raging blaze of Kali's days had never begun. How blessed are they who fill their days with praise of Shri Yashoda's son. So that's a verse from the Padyavali. Padyavali is verses, a few of them are by Rupa Goswami, but mostly they consist of his favorite verses, his own nectar file, about 400 verses, and they're in different topics. And believe it or not, this is where we get the Shikshastika. The Shikshastika was not written as an Ashtaka by Lord Chaitanya, but those verses were written at different times by him, glorifying various aspects of the holy name. And so they were collected, I think, by Krishnadas Kaviraj and presented like that at the end of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's very important. So I won't recite the Shikshastikas, we run out of time, but there's an ocean. There's an ocean of nectar to be had in these wonderful books, Srila Prabhupada's books and those which he followed. All right, so we have gotten to text 13. I'll put this thing up, and we'll resume tomorrow. And I think we'll have the company of Brajamandala and Yugala Kishore tomorrow. Okay.